Let me tell you something about when a narcissist knows that you're looking for closure, right? Whenever these things happen to us, right, we have to first understand that one thing is for sure is that our ego plays a role in the torment that we kind of go through and certain periods of disconnecting from a narcissist. But the one thing that the narcissist knows is that as long as they can keep you in the dark, without having closure, it makes you have to come up in your mind various scenarios of why and what happened and how could this have happened and what could have changed, what you could have done differently, those things, right? Whenever a person doesn't have closure, a lot of times, for the most part, they remain stuck. And when you're stuck, you cannot properly proceed to moving along from the situation without regret. And that's the most important thing. When you cannot move along without regret, without feeling as though you left something undone, without it feeling as though you didn't get to complete what you started, it leaves this very unsettling feeling within the person who was victimized. I don't like to use that word with narcissists, but I like to say the person who the narcissist targeted, right? We don't want to be victims to a narcissist, right? We don't want to give them that power of feeling as though, hey, we're just victims. No. We were uninformed, targeted people by narcissists. Let's use that instead. We were uninformed, targeted people. And by being uninformed, I mean you did not know the true nature and character of that individual, because that individual was pretending to be something that would be acceptable in your eyes by your standards. So an uninformed, targeted individual may feel as though, and I heard this a lot of times, they weren't smart enough to catch and read into what's going on. How could they? Because, you have people with doctorate's degrees, master's degrees, etc., highly educated people who still get ran through the loop by these individuals because it has nothing to do with academics. This has everything to do with feelings, emotions, right? And for women, most cases, language is the weakness of most women. For men, the physicality, right? Sensuality, femininity is the weakness for most men. So depending on what you're dealing with, if you're dealing with the male narcissist or if you're dealing with the female narcissist, those two things will come into play on how they're going to choose to manipulate you. But most of the times, narcissists, the very advanced skilled ones, know how to use both, whether they're male or female, interchangeably. They know how to spot it, right? And then they overload you on the qualities that they saw you react strongly into, right? This is kind of why you get the first ghosting within the first maybe 2 to 3 weeks of meeting them. You get a small little ghosting. Then they pop back up. It's just in reference for them to see, okay, how do they respond if I take myself away from them after I've doped them up on me and what I can do for them and what I do for them? How do they respond when I initially pull back and take it away? right? This is very powerful in the point of leverage that a narcissist is going to use against you in the future. Powerful leverage point, because depending on how you act, and again, by being uninformed targets, you don't know that all of this is basically them testing different metrics points, different metrics, and seeing how the metrics of how you operate and respond is going to play out in their favor. You don't know this. You don't know that you're being tested. You believe that this is an honest, genuine interaction. It's not. They're looking for an advantage. And from that advantage point, as they move along, as they create high intense emotions. This is one thing that really targets women too, is the never ending spin and twist of emotions that they put you through, which, believe it or not, actually connects you more to that person, because they have you going through this and that, and it seems like you've been with them for years, but it's only been 6-7 months, let's say. But it seems like you've been there a while. It could be 1 month, but the amount of things that narcissists put their targets through makes the time seem much longer, right? So this is leading into why we talk about why closure is such a impactful thing when they do finally just break off, right? Because it feels like you've spent so much time, you've done so much, and you put in so much effort. And at the end of the day, the narcissist finds a way to just leave all of that behind. Now, to the normal individual, you're looking at this and saying, how could they just let go and give up on this? And I feel the way that I feel, right? So you're comparing emotions in your mind. You're trying to see, okay, well, if I feel like this, how can they not feel some sort of way? Because number one, right, all of the things that they profess to want from you, to want to have with you, to want to build with you, all of these things, but yet let it go so easily. How could they do that, right? How could they just wither away and not care? Well, narcissists think ahead, and they have many other targets on their board. But by the methods that they use to emotionally entangle a person up in their web, right? You think about if a fly flies into a web from a spider, the fly gets caught. It doesn't die instantly just because it's got caught in the web. Eventually it will, because it cannot feed itself and stay alive for what pertains to its survival. But the spider doesn't necessarily have to be right there either. And when the spider comes back to check its traps, lo and behold, it finds something still there that's flew into its web. It's kind of how it is when you deal with a narcissist, and how closure keeps you entangled into that web that the narcissist has sewn for you. You've gotten stuck in. You don't know how to get out of it. You're still longing. You're still wondering. And no matter how you try to break it and unfree yourself, you're stuck. Now, how this relates in speaking about us in our day-to-day human lives, when the narcissist decides to come back around from who they were dealing with, if you notice, if you experience this, they come back as though nothing happened. They're just picking up where they left off. Because when there is no reasoning or rationality towards giving you closure, you typically stay stuck where you left off with them. Therefore, when they come back and they find that you are still entangled in their web of deception and lies and so forth, they could easily pick right back up and feast off you again. If you're still looking for closure and you've been really going through it mentally and emotionally, because it releases that anguish if they do come back, if they do appear to be ready and willing to make things right again. So I say this: if you find yourself feeling and longing for an answer, right, for a reason that makes sense to you, because that's a lot of the biggest thing that comes into part of closure, is something that makes sense, something that is sensible, that can make you, that can put you at ease with the fallout of the situation. If you find yourself looking for that, you have to really, really stop and reassess, right? Determine why you're feeling that way. Speak to someone. Get it off your chest. Do not hold it in. But speak to someone who understands, right? This is a powerful play for the narcissist. That's why they ghost and just leave. To give you an answer most of the time, even if some do. Some of you may have had some sort of a bullshit type of excuse or something to say why they don't want to be with you and they leave. And it makes no sense to you, and it still feels like, what? Why? That makes no sense. That's just to basically escape in their mind away from you without having to go into much detail and in depth, because there really isn't any rhyme or reason with the narcissist. It's all one big facade. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and you're another player playing within that game. Anyway, share the video, and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.